We are ready to start. So, firstly, let my dean, giving some welcome remarks.
Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the fifth EU ISIS talk. Today's discussion comes at a pivotal moment, just after the successful appointment of our new Prime Minister last week, and as we anticipate the finalization of the new cabinet. In diplomatic, academic, and policy-making spheres, there's a palpable sense of anticipation. We are all keenly awaiting insight into how this new government will craft both its domestic and international policies to address the myriad challenges Thailand faces, both internally and in foreign relations. Our topic today, Thai foreign policy outlook under the incoming government. Oh, I practice this, okay. Plus ça change, plus ça la même chose. Is certainly thought-provoking. This timeless French adage meaning the more things change, the more they stay the same, offers a profound perspective to scrutinize the potential shifts in Thai foreign policy under the new leadership. Thailand, celebrated for its rich history, distinct culture, and geopolitical significance, has long been a cornerstone in Southeast Asia's regional tapestry. As we embark on this new chapter, several pertinent questions arise. How will the new administration recalibrate Thailand's foreign policy? What stance will it take concerning the regional challenges, particularly in light of great power dynamics? Can Thailand maintain its equilibrium amid global superpowers? And what will be its role and influence within ASEAN? Revisiting our topic's central query, will the new government usher in transformative changes, or will we see a continuation of the family foreign policy stances from the past decades? Today, we are honored to be joined by esteemed experts in the field who will share their invaluable insights. I trust this seminar will be a catalyst for robust dialogue, deep intellectual engagement, and a nuanced comprehension of the complexities of Thai foreign policy. I would like to extend our gratitude to the EU delegations for their unwavering support, making today's enlightening discussion possible. We ardently hope that EU remains an active partner with our academic community at the Faculty of Political Science and Chulalongkorn University. Thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to the stimulating discussions that lie ahead. Thank you so much, everyone. ขอบคุณครับ
Thank you, Dr. Pagon, for your opening remarks. So, and again, welcome to the talk this morning. As Dean mentioned, this is a critical and interesting timing to start the discussions about foreign policy in the new government under Kun Sethar Thavisin. We have been looking forward to this, the formations of these governments for quite some time. So there's so many development going on from last Wednesday, since he officially bestowed down the royal appointment from the king as the 30th Prime Minister of Thailand. Domestic policy, of course, especially economic policy, seems to be a key focus on this government. But on the foreign policy front, it has some interconnections, and there are so many questions arise, as Ajahn Pagon was mentioning, how Thailand will lead in the near future amidst global and regional challenges. Would there be any continuities and changes emerging? And today we are lucky to be able to catch all of these experts who are going to help us analyze the current situations, current state, what's the challenges Thailand is facing or has been facing, and what's the likelihood of the foreign policy under the Sethar government, as well as some policy recommendations from the expert in this panel that could pass on to the new government if they want to listen to us. Right. So before we start, let me briefly introduce our panelists. First, Ambassador Charijan. He's a former Thai ambassador to Mozambique and Kazakhstan, and owner of the famous Facebook page, The Alternative Ambassador and Alternative Ambassador Returns. So he's one of the well-known critics of the Thai foreign policies. Very lucky to have him here to help us analyze the past, present, the future foreign policies, and maybe some insight, into the mirage of the foreign ministry. Next, Dr. Sitipon Kuratika. So Ajahn Sitipon is one of my best friends. He's a professor at the College of Interdisciplinary Studies, Thammasat University. So Ajahn Sitipon is one of Thailand's China study experts, and I'm very happy to have him here amidst his like a very busy time for the discussion, especially about the questions about China and Thailand. At this time, so it could be like very critical juncture. So next one, another good friend, Dr. Chitipat Punkam. Ajahn Chitipat is Associate Professor, Associate Dean for Academic and International Affairs, Director of International Studies Program, Faculty of Political Science, Thammasat University. So his research is relevant to our discussions today, especially regarding the power competitions between great power and Thai foreign relations. And the last one, and the youngest one, Dr. Panupat Titian. So Ajahn Panupat is the Deputy Dean of Academic Affairs and my colleagues at the Department of International Relations at Chulalongkorn University. So his research focuses on migrations, refugee humanitarianism, conflict, international development, and he's one of our experts in Myanmar issues. So if you have any questions, you can seek his wisdom in this panel, right? So we have a limited time and so many things to discuss, in this panel. So we will try to divide our discussion into three. The first session probably takes around like no more than 8 minutes to talk about the challenges that we have, have faced, Thailand have faced in the past, government, until now. And then the second one will spend a little more time, like 10 minutes something, to discuss about the direction, likelihood of the new foreign relations and foreign policy of the new government. And the last one, probably 30 to 40 minutes if we have time enough for the floor to start to throw a lot of questions to these panelists and extract their expertise, right? Okay, without further ado, let me start with the Ambassador Russ to kick off our discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. First of all, I wish to thank the Faculty of Political Science, ISIS, for inviting me today, and also the EU delegation for supporting this event. Mr. Dean, of course, and I see my former boss over there, former Foreign Minister of Thailand, Kun Kasit. So I hope since he is my former boss, so I hope he'll be kind to me today, this morning. As you see, my background is not from academic. I'm a retired diplomat, and my last position before becoming ambassador is Deputy Director General of the Information Department, which also serves as Deputy Spokesperson of Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now, I should start to touch upon the current situation of our foreign policy. I would have to say that in my 30 plus years or so in the service in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I have to say that the past decade to me, seems like has been the lost decade of Thai foreign policy. I'll be frank to you, and I was part of that too before I retired. But I see it as a lost decade of our foreign policy. In the past decade, I think we have lost our way, some friends, and international standing. And this is because the lack of the legitimacy of our government after the coup in 2014 have very much eroded our ability to conduct independently foreign policy. As a result, since 2014, after the coup, Thailand has substantially deviated from the cornerstone of Thai foreign policy. And this reflects in many of UN votes and on Ukraine and as well as on Myanmar, which is not some of them are not conform or do not follow the international norms, especially the condemning of Russia invading Ukraine, which is actually is quite deviate from Thai thinking or the foreign policy thinking, which has been held for so many years before, and also the vote. The abstention of the prohibition of arms sale to the junta Myanmar's government is quite contradict to international community, right? So we see for the past decade, we see our Thai foreign policy that has been substantially deviate from what Thai foreign policy used to be, and this is because when the government doesn't have legitimacy because they came into power through the coup d'état, it's made it difficult for them to explain to the world at large, and that's why they have to lean on one-sided instead of being independently engaged in foreign policy as it used to be. You have to understand one thing I would like to share with you is that since the Thai revolution back in 1932, which established Thai as a democratic country, the forefather of Thai foreign policy was former Prime Minister, and at that time it was Foreign Minister Kun Priti Phanommyong. He laid down the cornerstone of Thai foreign policy, that is that we will engage in international community as a responsible member and to engage in regional grouping. That was back, nearly 90 years ago, and that's the start of the ASEAN as we know it today. And if you remember, this is always be the cornerstone of Thai foreign policy. And we managed to, through Thailand, I think we managed to to establish ASEAN with the signing of Bangkok Declaration some 50 years ago. Now, this has always been our cornerstone of our Thai policy. But in the past decade, we've seen this change quite substantially, and it's not only because the government lacked the legitimacy, so they have to, so they cannot, because the West keep asking for when will the election be, and about the human rights abuses which the government cannot answer, so they are not very naturally they are not comforting to talk to the West that much. So they lean towards more friends that do not ask this issue, the friends that do not ask about internal problems, democracy, or human rights. And that's also, I should add that also have to deal with, of course, the procurement of arms, which you compare to the West, there are certain standards that have to follow in whether it would be doing business, trade, and of course including arms sales, and that will make it difficult for the Thai army to procure those weapons, and will And there's also that's on the table and under the table things that may be part of the reason. I would not pinpoint it because I don't have any evidence, but that's up to everyone judge of thinking. And as I say, it's not just the lack of legitimacy, not just that, but there is this deep mistrust among the Thai upper echelon of Thai elites, deep mistrust of democracy. I would say distrust or hate. I mean, there are a lot of people, elites, that mistrust democracy. And that's why we see this swinging since the coup in 2014, and result in the way that our government is under General Prayut, and resulting in our foreign policy that very much inward looking and is deviate from the cornerstone of Thailand policy, which is the ASEAN and the cohesiveness of ASEAN, and to be a responsible member of international community. Now, this deep mistrust, of course, result in our erode our ability to balancing the relation with major powers in the world, and we are more becoming less and less diversified in our relationship with other countries. Now, and so in doing so, I would think that the past decade, since 9 years to be precise, after the coup, we have lost our way and international standing, and as well as friends, unfortunately. And I hope we will be able to change all that. So with this conclusion, I pass it on to our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Russ. So he was like talking about the legitimacy problem of the past government since the coup, actually, and then that affect a lot of foreign policy, especially the way in which Thailand has been balancing between the great powers, and probably we know which one we leaning towards, that we have been criticizing the past government, and then that's China, to be frank. And the next one is the right person to talk about this kind of Thailand policy, foreign policy, especially towards China. And please, Dr. Siddhiporn.
Okay, thank you, Ajahn Pongpisut, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, I will talk about in the first round. I will talk about the overview of Thailand's relations with China during the past 9 years of Prayut government. I think during the past 9 years, the relations between Thailand and China have been strengthened continuously. Yeah, and the evidence can be seen by in 3 dimensions. The first dimension is frequent high-level visits. One of the most frequent visitors to China, except during the COVID-19, is Princess Mahachakri Sirinthorn, and in 2019, she was awarded Friendship Medal by Chinese President Xi Jinping. Apart from a member of the royal family, members of the government, head of the government, General Prayut, also visit Beijing in April 2019, followed by Li Keqiang's former premier Li Keqiang's visit to Thailand in November of the same year. And Xi Jinping himself also visit Thailand to attend the APEC summit last year, though it was not a state visit, but yeah, he set his feet on Thailand, yeah, and met with His Majesty the King. I will talk about the problem of state visit a little bit later, but at least this is the first evidence yes, showing the strengthening of relations between Thailand and China. The second dimension is the strengthening of economic relations. Yeah, China has been Thailand's largest trading partner since 2013. Yeah, and last year Thailand's trade volume with China was 107 billion US dollar, which account for almost 20% of Thailand's total foreign trade. And apart from trade, Thailand also relies on the influx of Chinese tourists. Yeah, in 2019, shortly at the last year before COVID, there were 11 million Chinese tourists coming to Thailand, which account for 25% of Thailand's total foreign tourists in that year. And the third evidence for the strengthening of Thailand's relations with China is Thailand's support for China on the issue of Hong Kong and Xinjiang, and also support for Xi Jinping's leadership. Yeah. If I think many of you would remember that in 2015, Thailand agreed to send 100 Uyghur Muslim migrants back to China. Yeah, and 4 years later, 2019, Thailand barred the entry of Joshua Wong, Hong Kong's pro-democracy activist. He was barred from entering Thailand that year. And if you can remember, General Prayut himself seems to admire Xi Jinping leadership. In 2017, General Prayut suggests that everybody should read Xi Jinping's book entitled The Governance of China. He said that this is the kind of the blueprint for national construction. Yeah, these are three evidence showing the strengthening of Thailand's relation with China. However, there are some difficulties in Thailand's relation with China as well. At least there are four problems in the bilateral relations. The first problem is the delay of the construction of the high-speed railway. Yeah, the construction was started in 2017. Yeah, and now almost 6 years have passed. Yeah, it is still less than 20% completed. Yeah, and this is one of the difficulty in bilateral relations. Yeah, the second difficulty is the problems of new Chinese migrants to Thailand. If you go to walk around the Hue Kwang district, you would see a big community of new Chinese migrants, and this group is their character are different from the previous generation of overseas Chinese. In the previous generation of overseas Chinese, including my ancestor, they arrived in Thailand as a poor and undereducated people. Therefore, they tended to adjust themselves to Thai culture and custom. Yeah, because at that time China was weak. There was no Chinese embassy in Thailand before the end of the Second World War. So it means that overseas Chinese at that time had to assimilate themselves, adjust their way of life to Thai society. But nowadays, for those new Chinese migrants, they come to Thailand, with bachelor degree. Most of them have bachelor degree. Most of them have their own money for investment, at least for opening a shop. Yeah, and more than that, they have a kind of backing or support from the PRC embassy. So they are quite assertive, and they tend not to assimilate themselves with Thai society. They have their own mobile application for food delivery, for example. They have their own society, without any needs to assimilate or adjust their way of life into the Thai society. This is the second difficulty. The third difficulty is a lack of state visit. Since the establishment of Thailand's diplomatic relations with China in 1975, many top leaders of China paid a state visit to Thailand. President Lee Hsien-nian, President Yang Shang-kun, Jiang Zemin, and the last one was President Hu Jintao in 2003. So it was 20 years ago. But after 2003, no state visit by Chinese head of state to Thailand. What about last year? Last year was not a state visit. Xi Jinping visit Thailand because he attended the APEC summit. And this is a problem because what is the reason behind lack of state visit by Xi Jinping? I guess that China want Thailand's head of state, want the Thai king to pay a state visit to China. Because since the establishment of diplomatic relations, Thai king never paid a state visit to China, although China extended an invitation for several times. But Thai king Rama IX and also Rama X never visit China. And this is what China is expecting from Thailand, because you have to imagine that nowadays all Asian head of state already paid a state visit to China, except Thailand, and also except Bhutan, because Bhutan doesn't have diplomatic relations with China. But all Asian states which have diplomatic relations with China, their head of state already paid a state visit to China, except the case of Thailand. And this is what the Chinese side is expecting for decades. They try to invite Thai king, former King Bhumibol in 2006 during the celebration of his 60 years on the throne. China also sent an invitation, but the late king declined. And I know from the staff at the PRC embassy that under the current plan, the Chinese government also extended an invitation for him to pay a state visit to China at least 2 or 3 times. But he just said that, okay, I will plan it, something like that. But no exact date is determined yet. So this is lack of state visit. And the final difficulty is about the attitude of young generation of Thai people toward China. When we celebrate the diplomatic relations between Thailand and China, we always say that Thai and Chinese are brothers, something like that. But we have to accept that for the young generation of Thai people, they have quite a negative image of China. We can see from the phenomenon a few years ago, the multi-alliance, when China cracked down on the pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong, and which created a kind of online alliance between the young generations of Hong Kong, Thailand, and Taiwan called multi-alliance. And if you can remember, Joshua Wong, the pro-democracy activist in Hong Kong, he met with Thanathorn, one of the founders of Move Forward Party, and Thanathorn's meeting with Joshua Wong was condemned by the Chinese embassy. I think this is the overall picture of the relations between the two countries.
Thank you very much. Actually, he was condemned by the chief army as well, after the embassy raised this issue that year. So kind of have like a political ramifications on Thai politics during that time. So we can see that like China is like one of the big factors during the past government, right? Based on China's rise, economic growth, and everything. But like we are looking at the new China, where economic growth has been slowing down. So would that affect Thai foreign relations and its closeness with the Chinese? That we have to look into probably next sessions that Ajahn Sitipon is gonna give us some thought. So next one, when we talk about foreign relations with great powers, United States and other middle powers, EU, Australia's, and other regional grouping. Perhaps Ajahn Chitipat will help us unfold what's happening in the past, and we can just talk about it later.
Thank you, Ajahn Pongpisut, and good morning, everyone. So my part, I would like to explore kind of an overview of Prayut's foreign policy, in particular Thailand's position amid great power competition. I would like to argue that Thai foreign policy in the last 9 years also was hedging by default, rather than promoting a kind of strategic hedging or balancing in the great power relations. Although Prime Minister Prayut claimed that since 2019 election, Thailand has succeeded in maintaining good relations with all countries and playing constructive roles internationally. But as a conservative state, Thailand under Prayut had a kind of strategic or legitimacy problem domestically and internationally. I think there are at least 3 important reasons for this. First, Thai foreign policy under Prayut is not driven by a strategic whole of government assessment of Thai interests and options. Rather, foreign policy was shaped by bureaucracy, if not a bureaucratic state. Each bureaucracy had its own foreign policy or international orientation. It looked like overall we are simultaneous hedging with many powers and countries around the world, but it is not a result of a so-called grand strategy. It is scattered, directionless. The outcomes may appear like hedging, but the main cause is different government agencies indulging their own preferences, orientation, and perhaps options. I think this might be more accurately characterized as hedging by default, where a balanced posture occurs only by accident by different bureaucratic organizations. Second, Thai foreign policy was and still is increasingly edging toward China, as Professor Sitipon elaborate. Rather than strategically committing to a strategy of bandwagoning, Thailand is steering or slipping toward China, I think due to 4 main factors. Political necessity after coup d'etat. 2, ideational normative convergence. 3, China economic attractiveness. And 4, lack of US strategic commitment. Let me elaborate a little bit. One is political necessity. The coup d'etat made Thailand closer to China and to a certain extent Russia. It weakened and limited options. Since then, Western sanctions triggered by the coup further stimulate Thailand's Sino-centric approach. Its road back to elections in 2019 has not altered its direction. 2, the ideational normative convergence between Thai conservatism and China-led emerging so-called illiberal world order. Okay, it created a kind of a convergence of these. That Thailand's foreign policy in general was inward-looking. This is coupled with the third factor, namely China's economic allure. Professor Sitipon mentioned about many difficulties between Thailand and China, but I think in terms of identity closeness happened at the elite level. For example, during the meeting, Prayut said that Thailand is looking to boost its partnership with China for a future that is strong, wealthy, and sustainable. and referring to China and Thailand not as strangers, but as brother and sisters. So consequently, Thailand has been gradually drawn towards Beijing's trade and infrastructural power, despite some delay in the Chinese high-speed railway and so on and so forth. Fourth is because the U.S. strategic commitment is still unclear or still ambiguous. ASEAN leaders are dubious and to a certain extent disappointed of America's long-term strategic commitment and inconsistent diplomatic engagement. Just so you know, Biden's decision to skip Thailand's APEC summit last year and this year East Asia Summit and ASEAN meeting in Jakarta has raised many eyebrows in the region. And I think the 2023 ISIS Singapore survey highlight this trend very well. It suggests that ASEAN countries has remained ambivalent about the U.S. regional leadership role on multiple fronts. And among the ASEAN 6 countries, Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines, confidence in the U.S. as a reliable strategic partner and provider of regional security has been steadily declining since 2021. But more importantly, I think the U.S. has increasingly shifted its focus to geopolitical competition with China by, to a certain extent, bypassing the ASEAN-centered multilateral institutions and building its own game of minilateralism. The minilateral turn includes the reinvigoration of the Quad, establishment of AUKUS, and the recent development of trilateral ties with Japan and South Korea. In addition, America's economic posture is far from substantiated. Notwithstanding his promises to ASEAN leaders of a new era in U.S.-ASEAN relations at a meeting in Washington, D.C. in May 2022, Biden has not channeled massive investments toward the region, nor is rebooting trade relationships promising since he is not considering rejoining the CPTPP that Donald Trump pulled out of it in 2017. Perhaps it is true that it is economy stupid that might be kind of a living force here. Also, U.S.-led liberal rule-based international order and free and open Indo-Pacific, or FOIP, which is fixated on China as a strategic rival, raised regional concerns of ultimately having to take sides. I remember in, I think, ASEAN Summit in Singapore in 2018, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, who is also wary of Sino-US strategic rivalry, said that ASEAN may eventually have to choose sides. So overall, America's overemphasis on China threat has backfired in its relationship with mainland Southeast Asian nations, including Thailand, which have tremendous economic ties and at some point at the elite level identity, closeness with Beijing. This leads me to the last but not least point. I think Ambassador Ras mentioned about this. Thailand under Prayut did not fully maintain itself a kind of a principal and prestigious actor on the international stage, especially during the Russo-Ukrainian war. I think for the first time in Thailand diplomatic history, the oft-cited tradition of bamboo diplomacy has been publicly criticized. Some even call the official Thai position spineless and lacking all principles. I think it's divided between different groups. Conservatives might still perceive Russia as a close friend and alliance, but I think for younger generation and liberals have called for a tougher stance against Russian aggression. I think this is a lost decade, as Ambassador Ras mentioned. Two caveats. One, I think, although Thailand at first has voted in favor of UNGA resolution to deplore Russia's actions in early March last year, the country has had more recently abstained from a vote to condemn Russia's annexation of 4 eastern regions of Ukraine last October. The Prayut government cited concerns that it would reduce the chances for diplomacy to bring about a negotiated solution. I think among the 10-nation ASEAN community, only 3 nations, including Thailand, join China and India in abstaining. My second caveat is that despite their historic friendship, Thai-Russia relations in general have little more than marginal significance in the current context of Thailand's teetering between the US and China. With little real substance to their relationships, Thailand and Russia are not strategically, comprehensive partners, and I think this is not going to change in the near future. In the short term, Thailand's stance on Russia's aggression in Ukraine has undermined its image and reputation internationally. In the long term, the hedging by default approach under Prayut has exposed Thailand's national position and prestige. To sum up, Thailand's under Prayut had encountered the agent structure problematic in the sense that on the one hand, Thailand lacks transformative agency to position and steer a clear direction in the world. At the same time, the structure of emerging bipolar international order limits and constrains our options. This increasingly intense geopolitical competition is eventually pushing and pressuring states, including Thailand, to choose sides. While hedging by default, Thailand is perhaps blowing with the wind. Eventually, the country has risked, under Prayut, had risked being gone with the wind in the last 9 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's what we have been observed, right? And not well-crafted foreign policy, especially controlled by a few bureaucracies, and especially in the foreign ministries, and a few persons, right? I mean, like that. Probably the diplomatic community would realize, how Thailand foreign policy in the past couple of years has been going on, especially what the nearest Thailand neighboring countries, Myanmar, issue crisis, humanitarian crisis, that something has been going on quite, off track, like some critic suggest that, we have a 5-point consensus, but, we haven't really attached to that or adhere to that, principle. We don't consult with any ASEAN member countries and go by ourselves. That's the result of this kind of not well-crafted strategy and controlled by some sort of like a personal interest and group interest in the foreign ministry. So who else can reveal that kind of complexities about Thailand foreign policy with Myanmar? So next, Ajahn Panupat, please.
Pheu for the introductions, and then also thank you Assist Thailand for having me here, and thanks to the European Union for the supporting of the event and the activities of Assist Thailand and also the faculty as well. And I'm also humbled to share the stage with all the prominent scholars of international relations, diplomats, and I'm a sociologist by training. So the way I see the issue is from the sociological lens rather than as the international relations expert. So the structure of my talks will be divided into 2 parts for the first round of discussions. First of all, I will start with the challenges for the Thai foreign policies from my perspective, which is deriving from my own research that focus on transnational security issues in the border areas, particularly between Thailand and Myanmar. And then the second part, I will do the assessment of the Thai government responses to the challenges. And I hold a position that Thailand does not have a foreign policy, at least over the past 8 years. And this is part of the reason why I use the term responses rather than policy. I also argue that Thailand's responses are very fragmented and in a very similar fashion. Like what Ajahn Chittipat already mentioned, it's actually involved different agencies in the so-called business as usual and more tactical ad hoc measures, which is indeed, as Ambassador Ras already mentioned, is a lost decade of Thai foreign relations and also the loss of opportunities for Thailand. So now let me delve into my points, which is going to be the challenges for Thai foreign policies from how I see it. And I think that these challenges are there for quite some time, and Thailand will have to be responding to these challenges in years to come as well. And what are they? I divided them into 2 groups. One is more like macro levels, global, regional challenges. The first one, Ajahn Chittipat and Ajahn Siddhiporn already mentioned a little bit. It's more related to the geopolitical rivalries between Thailand and China. It is here to stay, and it will become a backdrop of what's going to happen in the regions in years to come. I'm particularly worried about the scramble for Burma, where both countries, China and the US, are attempting to exert influence and have their stake. And among a different initiative of Beijing, I'm specifically concerned about the Global Security Initiative, or GSI, in which Southeast Asia is conceptualized as a so-called pilot zone for GSI to, in quote, jointly safeguard regional peace and stabilities. And this from the concept notes of GSI. And equally concerning is the Burma Act, of which the US will come with various projects and also activities. And the key questions for me is that how would Thailand navigate through the rivalries, which so far we haven't seen the effective response, and whether or not the bamboo swirling in the wind that Ajahn Pongpisut crafted years ago was to be something that we can respond, or even hedging by default that Ajahn Chitipat mentioning just now, would that be the response in years to come? The second macro issue is about ASEAN centralities. And there have been a sense of ASEAN fatigue in the previous years and the lack of unities among ASEAN member countries. And Myanmar issue is one of the key issues dividing ASEAN as well. And every country wants to showcase what they can do, and we see that it's driven by group and personal interests rather than the interests of ASEAN as a whole. The question is, how would Thailand help revitalize the role of ASEAN in the driving seat? So that's more like macro levels challenges that we're going to see in terms of Thai foreign policies. Now let's delve specifically into Myanmar, more like micro and transnational border challenges. There are several of them, but then the two key ones that I will focus with the implication for Thai security and also regional stabilities. The first one is one that's more tied closely to security issues, and that is the transnational crime, transnational criminal activities. In the past, we have seen this more as a security challenges, but for me, this issue is actually intertwined with foreign affairs, and it should be of concern to Thailand. And what am I talking about here? First, drugs. Since the coup in 2021 in Myanmar, there has been a growing drug trafficking activities that affect Thailand's national security, and we have seen the case of drugs for guns. There were also legal cases in the US court involving some of the armed groups. And if you look into the data as a Royal Thai Police, the amount of drugs arrested between 2020 and 2021 are significantly increased. While the amount of cases are somewhat similar, the amount of the met arrests increased from 300 and 700 million to 5,700 million. And the amount of heroin increased from 500 kilograms to 4,500 kilograms. And which area is the highest among this? Of course, it's the Golden Triangle areas and also the border areas between Thailand and Myanmar. How did Thailand respond to this? Well, there's no effective response at the time. Second, scam, online casinos, and also money laundering. Of course, this may not be a new issue since these activities happen for quite some time around Thailand. But if you get a chance to visit Mesai, I would strongly suggest you to take a look at how growing fast Shui Gogo are rising. And these spectacular around the cities by the border of Thailand, and also the rising price of lands in the areas, including on the Thai side as well. Some of these lands are actually resold to the Chinese investors, and particularly in the area under the control of the border guard or the BGF in the city of Mewadi. The business here is concerning because it's affecting the growth of the transnational criminal activities. But then this form of business also been seen as a model of development among some of the business sectors in the areas, and that's concerning because it's also related to both security and foreign affairs. The third part, which is also to do with the same areas, Shui Koko, and also some other areas along the border, it's also human smuggling and trafficking. I'm not talking about trafficking into Thailand, but I'm talking about trafficking through Thailand into these areas. Like we've seen cases of people from multiple countries who have been lured into these places in the past few years from all over the world. And how do they cross? Well, from Thailand. And this is the reason why these challenges is significant for the countries and the Thai government in years to come. The next part, which is going to be more important, is about Myanmar specifically. The 3C challenge, which have been something that changed Myanmar's socio-political landscape in the past few years. The 3Cs are the coup, COVID, and climate change. Why are they significant to Thailand's foreign and security policies? Well, it becomes a push factors leading to migrations of people outside of Myanmar into Thailand. It leads to border health concerns and also the humanitarian complexities. Let me start from the coup. The military coup in 2021 greatly changed the political landscape of Myanmar, and we have seen the emergence of new actors like the PDF, CDMs, the shrinking area of control by Tatmadaw, the new form of activism, and also the changing role of ethnic arms organizations, which some of them are now the ethnic resistant organizations. And of course, the state may be failing, but at least these situations offer some hopes in the changing of landscape. And for me, the hopes actually lies in the ethnic groups and also the Gen Z. We have seen how the ethnic groups and also the Gen Zs are now working towards the so-called federal democracies, in which there will be a division of powers and responsibilities between the central government of the new Myanmar and the state governments. None of the groups are talking about separations, and surprisingly, WA as well, which would like to be one part of the union. The key question for me is that does the Thai government understand these complexities which have changed since the coup? The answer for the past 8 years, or the past 2 to 3 years is no. The Thai foreign policies will, in the long run, have to engage both with the federal and also the state governments in Myanmar. And have we prepared for this? The answer is also no as well. Thailand should also be thinking and reconsidering the way in which they look and understand the EROs and also the engagement with the Tatmadaw. Of course, they will not go away, but how going to be a new form of engagement? So that's on the question of coup. Now, COVID-19 already put some stress on Myanmar's healthcare system. The coup made it gone from worse to worse. And one of the reasons that we've seen for that is there was a doctor fled from hospitals in the countries. 60% of them fled into the ethnic control areas or even into Thailand as well. And as I was traveling in the borders between Thailand and Myanmar in the past 2 years, I have a privilege of meeting some of the surgeons from the major general hospital in Myanmar. Did Thailand do anything with these highly skilled people? Of course, the answer is none. Malaria is now spread into Thailand again. And the doctor in Mesod from the conference I just attended 3 days ago also shows that these caused partially by migrations and also, of course, climate change made the virus and the variants different as well. Children inside Myanmar are not vaccinated. And as they travel into Thailand, this could affect some of the diseases that gone already can affect the Thai populations. Doctors know these problems, but because there is no systematic policies in managing this, that's why it will affect Thailand in the long run. Climate change. I think this is not just for Myanmar actually, but we see that the coup led to conflicts, make rice productions almost not possible already. But with the irregular climate, we have also seen the less water in the rice field and not enough rain during the burn seasons. And what happened? Well, we saw the crazy haze problems in earlier this year affecting Thailand also. As a result of this, what happened is that people fled to Thailand, and particularly to the border areas near Thailand. There are 300 plus people in the country since the coup. Some of them are talented people of Myanmar, but we do not have a systematic response to them at all, at least within the past 2 to 3 years. So let me move on to the last part quickly, and then before I end this first round. So what we see is that actually Thailand doesn't have a very systematic responses to all these situations. What we see is go back to what Ajahn Chittipat mentioned, it's fragmented in the way that it focuses more on how different agencies and bureaucratic agencies are performing their roles. MFA in particular has been very ineffective. Those in leadership has acted in its own way, and I honestly think that their actions done more damage to the nations, to the countries, more than bringing benefits to Thai diplomacies. And in the absence of Thai foreign policies, it leads to bureaucracy running the shows. And we got the engagement of the defense, foreign affairs, and NSCs doing things in their own ways. And the lack of policies in an uncoordinated way, that's why to explain how messy Thai foreign policies and things have been in the past few years. And these uncoordinated responses eventually make the status of Thailand to be less prestigious than it was before. And particularly it also affects the dynamic of ASEAN because of it makes some of the figures do things in the way that please their interests rather than serving the national interests. So I ended there for the first round. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ajahn Panupat. Seems to me that he's very frustrated with the Thai policy toward Myanmar. But then, all of us, I might want to conclude that, we see a lot of challenges, on Thai foreign policies during the past government, in the past 9 years to be exact, right? Like challenges at all front, policy itself, strategy, organizational, right? Leadership style, that affect not only how Thailand positions itself in the structural level, between global competitions, regional issues and challenges. Thailand cannot play roles, right? And sub-regional, right? Myanmar, Mekong sub-regions, Thailand cannot play that active role anymore. Even though that has been one of the core, issues in Thai foreign policies in mainland Southeast Asia, and of course, it affects our domestic politics, domestic well-being, of the Thai people. across borders, and even like in Bangkok here, right? So now we have the new government. Anything's going to be changed, according to our title. Some changes to be taking place in the new government. Looking at how the compositions of the new government is. Well, I would say like all government minus Democrat plus Pheu Thai. That would change anything? Of course, Pheu Thai is probably focusing, as I mentioned earlier, economic policy. Would that change anything? Direction, strategy, policy? Perhaps we'll start with Ambassador Ras. Perhaps he has some insightful information about the Thai foreign ministry. Who's going to be our Thai foreign minister?
My guess is as good as yours. Thank you, Professor. Now, I think we have expert on China, US, and Myanmar. How come we don't have one on EU? Who is supporting this image? Well, but okay, I hope our colleagues from EU will give some insight afterwards. Now, the way I see it, my reading on our current political situation in Thailand is no one is happy about this outcome at all. No one particular side is happy. Everyone is losing in a certain way, but there's some silver lining in all this as well. Some gain, some lose, but at the moment, no one is happy about it, and the next government and coming government might not be in Thai we say so handsome or very attractive to the general public as we hope it to be, and because the new government will be formed by those parties that's pro-democracy and parties that used to support dictatorship in Thailand. So we don't expect that our new government will be very attractive that much even to the Thai public itself. But I think we have to live with it because I believe this is at least the move, a forward move for our country, which we have been in this pool for past decades. So it's now the time to move on, whether it's unfortunately, it might not be perfect and attractive one that we hope it to be, but that's how it's gonna be, at least for now. We don't know. It should be better in 4 years, but this is what we have to live with for now. Now, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Minister, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Ministry of Foreign Affairs is, as we know, is one important portfolio in the cabinet, but unfortunately, it's the ministry in Thai politics. No one wants to be at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The least choice, for it has been like that for so long. But I can, in my reading, for this time around, I think Pheu Thai Party has made it clear, or they set its sights on this portfolio, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and they will not let other parties to it. They fix. They give very much the Pheu Thai give very much importance on Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Thai foreign policy. So no matter who it will be, the foreign minister will be, it will be from Pheu Thai Party. That I think that's quite certain for now. And like I said, the foreign minister, the new foreign minister will be from Pheu Thai Party. And from my reading, the Pheu Thai Party wants the Ministry of Foreign Affairs because one thing for sure, we will see the new Thai foreign policy by the Pheu Thai candidates focusing on the foreign policy that will the priority will be given on the economic issues, which is what Pheu Thai strong point of the Pheu Thai Party. So the new foreign minister will, I think, give very much importance on how to improve or engage more economically through the Thai foreign policy. But as we know that economic and political and security issue cannot totally be separate. So I think, in my view, I hope to see some changes in our foreign policy. And I believe there's urgent need for us, Thailand, to get back on track. And the way to get back on track to carry out Thai foreign policy effectively, I think we need to focus on three areas. One is ASEAN. I hope to see our new foreign policy give much importance on the cohesiveness of ASEAN, and we will be once again active member of and responsible member of the organization. And well, as I hope that we will adhere to on Myanmar. We hope the government, the new foreign policy, the foreign minister will adhere on the 5-point consensus as agreed among the ASEAN leaders and help solve the conflict in Myanmar along the line with ASEAN members countries. As my colleague has mentioned earlier, that the conflict in Myanmar has been one of the issues that divide ASEAN quite a lot in the past year. So I hope that our new government will be more in line with ASEAN and bring back the cohesiveness of the organization, and to be back with our friends once again. And secondly, apart from ASEAN, we need to be more engaged, outward-looking with our international level, and we need to adhere strictly to the UN Charter, international laws, and this is with regard to issues like Ukraine as well. And the thirdly, I sincerely hope that we need to restore our capability in balancing the relations and influence of major powers, both economically and politically, security in the region as well. This is, we are now, I think we can say that we are now entering the new Cold War era, which is Cold War were not so cold because they are fighting in Ukraine, where it's not so cold. But we need to be flexible in our foreign policy, to be engaged in all sides more than these past 9 years. And I like to also to mention that the Indo-Pacific strategy is one of the things that we need more to have an active role in this regard. We can maximize our membership in this key forum as Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for prosperity, and we need to be more balanced in our relations. But having said this, of course, China is very important to Thailand, both economically, politically, securities as well. So I don't see the sudden shift that will move us away from China that much. But at the same time, I hope that we will engage with our Western friends more than it should be. I'd say that. And the last The thing I want to mention is also our friend for so long time, and thousands of years, which is India, that we need to engage more. I believe we will have much more. We can have more constructive relationship with India, and India is asserting itself as a global power. So I think there's the need for Thai foreign policy to engage more with India. That's the way I see it. But overall, it's ASEAN international level and the need to rebalancing our relationship with all the major powers that I wish to see the new our government's new foreign policy to be carried out. Now, to answer the last this topic of today, through sa chance, through la même chose, I would say let's change back to the same thing that we start at the beginning of the Thai foreign policy. That we will be a responsible member of ASEAN and the international community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just expect the minimal. To start with, like let's do that better. And things gonna go much improved. So, Professor Ambassador Russ was talking about a lot of issues that are very important now, right? Especially toward the end, the balance positions between Thailand and great powers, with China and other great powers. India's is like up and coming, right? Like similar populations in China now, with a much dynamic growth rate, and then probably. Yeah, and then and it's like the birth rate, in India is like two babies per one woman, compared to China's probably around one baby per one woman. So that tells us a lot of things. How China can sustain economic growth in the next decade, right? And how Thailand would be able to rely on China as we have been in the past couple of decades since the end of the Cold War. And then perhaps Ajahn Sitipon can shed the light on this, how the new government can craft the foreign policy toward China.
Okay, thank you. I think given the background of the new prime minister and the new foreign minister, they are keen on business and economics. And given Pheu Thai Party overall thinking about foreign affairs, I think it is likely that the new government would see China as an economic opportunity for Thailand rather than a strategic threat. Yeah. So it is likely that the new government would strictly respect the core interests of China. That is in the case of Taiwan, Hong Kong, Xinjiang, or even the South China Sea. I think this is what the new government is going to do. So it is not much different from the previous government. I think since the late 1990, every Thai government has agreed that China has perceived China as an economic opportunity rather than a threat. Yeah. But this trend may cause a problem for the new government because concurrently, I think the new government want to establish or revive its leadership among ASEAN members. I think the dream of Thaksin for Thailand as a kind of a regional hub would be revived by the new government. So if Thailand is pro-Chinese too much, it would become an obstacle for Thailand itself to establish its centrality or its leadership among the ASEAN members. For example, what will Thailand do if the issue of Taiwan, Hong Kong, Xinjiang, or the South China Sea are brought into ASEAN-led platform like East Asian Summit or ARF? Yes, if Thailand is perceived as pro-Chinese, Thailand might lose its credibility in the eyes of some ASEAN members. Therefore, I suggest that Thailand as a middle-sized country with regional leadership ambition should find a balance between economic interests and adherence to internationally accepted norms. I think the new government should find a balance between these two factors. Yeah, I think I suggest Thailand must clearly stress its position that any violation of international law and norms by any country, by China or by the United States, by Russia and every country, by any country, is unacceptable. Yeah, if we adhere to this principle firmly, this would upgrade Thailand's credibility and also upgrade Thailand's soft power rather than exporting Thai handicraft or promoting Thai traditional dance. Yeah. So adherence to international law and norms, yeah, I think is the key. Yeah, mango with rice. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So, and the final thing of my suggestion is that I think Ajahn Pongpisut already mentioned. Now we have to realize that China in the third term of Xi Jinping is experiencing economic downturn and unpredictability in many aspects. So Thailand's reliance on export to China and reliance on the income from the influx of Chinese tourists is too risky for the Thai economy. Therefore, I think strengthening and expanding relations with other key actors, right, the Quad countries and the EU, is a wise choice, not only as economic alternative to China, but also as a kind of political and strategic supporting base for Thailand in the age of China's ascendancy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, you touch upon like a very important actually aspect that like we have been told, right, in the public that Thailand and China's trade has been growing for decades, but actually for many decades we actually experienced trade deficit with China, and it has been growing, right? And then that probably has been downplayed by probably in the media. When we have media companies here, so probably you have to say something in balance, right? Like we actually got trade deficit more with China. So then diversifications of our economic partner and stakeholder is very important. That help both economic policies and actually foreign policies. And then goes to Dr. Jitita about the power relations.
Thank you. I'm not optimistic about the incoming government, but also not pessimistic. So maybe a kind of in between pessimistic, realistic take on the incoming government led by Pheu Thai Party. Two big points or puzzles. One, I think, is the puzzle that we have already discussed about to what extent is Thai foreign policy is going to change, and in what way. And the second one is what is to be done, how to get out of this mess in the last decade. So let's start with the first one. I don't think there will be a kind of radical sea change in Thai foreign policy. Slight change might happen, but fundamentally, I anticipate that the Sethar government will pursue a kind of pragmatic, business-oriented foreign policy. You can see that the combination of the government is, mainly from business community, but and also the kind of the balance between different political parties. So an unofficial list of ministers designate look not quite impressive. It looked like Prayut 3.0 government with Pheu Thai as a head of government. It might be too early to judge the incoming government merely based on this cover, but we should evaluate, not simply what one says, but also what one does in saying it, and what one saying it brings about. So I have a couple of points on this matter. One, I think, like Ambassador Raj mentioned, I think foreign policy will be more economic oriented, business oriented, if not capitalist policy. Pheu Thai, in medias, right, mentioned the name Kun Pan Bri as as a new foreign minister, deputy prime minister and foreign minister, as a portfolio, a former trade representative. So I think it's a kind of idea that Thai foreign policy in the incoming government will go in that direction. And I think this economic diplomacy is the strength of Pheu Thai brand since Thai Rak Thai and Palang Prachachon were governments in the past. However, there are some challenges as well. One, because of domestic politics, different political parties, mixed party government. Second, global economic turbulence is enormously challenging. Many issues, many challenges, and I don't think it is as easy as in the past. So this might be something that the Pheu Thai government will encounter soonest. The second point I think is about the change in form. Change in form might happen and will happen. I think first and foremost, Thai government, the new Thai government, shall be a more principled and prestigious player in the world. We should stand firm on the UN principles and international law, as well as strongly support and defend global challenges collectively, such as human rights, climate change, environmental issues, and so on and so forth. However, Thai government might not take stance on a kind of liberal, rule-based foreign policy. If we compare with what Pita mentioned during the election, that the government should pursue a kind of rule-based foreign policy. But I think at least Pheu Thai government will depart from hedging by default approach and pursue a much more principled stance, a kind of strategic hedging. And I think rather than adopting a kind of a conservative or inward-looking, Pheu Thai government will be more internationalist, outward-looking, and hopefully it will position Thailand as a more responsible player on the global stage as well. The third point, I think, is with regard to issue with regional affairs. I think under Pheu Thai, I think it will link and lead ASEAN-led institutions or frameworks more, and revitalizing many initiatives from the Pheu Thai Palang Prachachon and so on in the past. For example, ACMEX. That might revitalize and strengthen ACMEX mechanisms in the macro and river management in the region. And also, I think with regard to Myanmar, as Ajahn Panupat mentioned, I think Thailand under Sethar will change maybe the battlefield to into the marketplace. This might be a new version of changing the battlefield into the marketplace. In other words, we will see not too much quiet diplomacy in Myanmar, but it might not be. It will be in between a kind of human rights approach and a kind of reactionary approach. So it might be in the between of these two approaches on these issues. Lastly, with regard to soft power, I think the Pheu Thai candidates mentioned about soft power as well. In particular, they highlight many alternative forms of diplomacy, such as true culture, creative economy, and innovation from local and family economy. As the candidates promoted the so-called one family, one soft power policy in order to encourage families to innovate products and create soft power. I think the overall initiatives are good, but the use of the term soft power might be misleading because the term is seemingly misconceived since soft power is not about that kind of thing. So the Pheu Thai government should be specifically clear about soft power, what Thai government should do, rather than maybe promoting culture, mangosteen, Muay Thai and so on and so forth. It might be attachment to international rules and norms at the UN levels, as Professor Siddhipon mentioned, and also some global agendas that we can promote as part of position Thailand image and prestige in global affairs, like, for example, genders, equality, feminists, for example, LGBTQ+, or even climate change and so on. So I think there's something that Pheu Thai government can do, but it might be better to drop this contested term of soft power and stick more with multiple diplomatic tools that the party has already pledged to lift people's income, reform the welfare system, and enhance the production of creativity through families. So my suggestion is that let's simply say it's cultural diplomacy or creative diplomacy, and both areas are strategic strength of the incoming government. Another point, let me have a very quick one. I have written the article published in the RSIS in Singapore, so I will not go into detail, but I think the ultimate aim for the incoming government is to maintain a kind of strategic equilibrium in a new Cold War or geopolitical competition. I have three main policy recommendations. One is that I think Thailand should understand and anticipate the emerging bipolar international system in the Indo-Pacific region and geopolitical rivalry between US and China in a systematic way. In this matter, Thailand should aspire to maybe bend before the wind or bend ahead of the wind. So we need to anticipate and have a clear positions on this matter. And in order to maintain strategic equilibrium, sometimes we might not agree with China, US, or EU or other partners always, but we need to think about this mutual interest and share values. Second, it might be necessary to revitalize so-called equidistant diplomacy because in the past decades we are edging closer to China more than other strategic partners. So basically, equidistant diplomacy is employed by the state to project and signal a kind of equilibrium or neutral image and posture. It might be a kind of aspiration to maintain a cordial relation with all powers, at the same time protecting and defending core national interests. My last recommendation, I coined this term many years ago, that Thailand maybe should pursue a kind of leading from the middle, strategies, because bamboo diplomacy is less viable than the past. In such a strong wind, even the bamboo is likely to break. Rather, Thailand should position itself as a middle power and adopt a leading from the middle strategy. Barack Obama used to call U.S. approach as leading from behind during the UNSC/EU-led operation in Libya in 2011. So leading from the middle is not Thailand alone, but also together with ASEAN countries to position itself in this changing world order. And I think it might be a strategic vision that a middle power like Thailand and also the like-minded state in the region pursue in order to hedge with great powers, bind them with a rule or norm-based order, while simultaneously initiating region-wide political and diplomatic innovation and advocacies. The strategy aims at seeking to reduce strategic uncertainty for secondary states among great power competition. This approach, I think it might help us, Thailand, to punch above the weight sometimes in the world and in regional. And I think Thailand maybe should stop thinking about itself as a kind of a small state. I think we should aspire to think about region is our common space and the world is our destination. So combined together these three approaches, my position Thailand, more than we have bamboo bending with the wind, in order to cultivate a coherent and resilient and responsible foreign policy in the world right now. And the scales and pace of global turbulence calls for bold new approach that Thailand should position as transformative and responsible agents in this world as well. Without this, I think, as I mentioned in the last round, that otherwise it is likely that the country would risk being gone with the wind in the 21st century. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. A lot of suggestions. That and one point is like you're punching above the weight of the belt. Probably, have you been doing that? In Thailand's Myanmar policies, or at the wrong belt?
Thank you so much. I don't know whether I can answer that question, but the thing was that for me, I will be really brief. I totally agree with all the three panelists that trade to be the key features of the upcoming government of Thailand, and that's already been highlighted clearly on the website of Pheu Thai Parties on foreign policies, that they only focus on two things. One is on the opening doors for additional investments, and then the other one is the passport power of Thailand. So to make Thai peoples go outbound and so on and so forth, and that's one part. The other part, it's also more about the list of potential candidates that we see before, and now, which you said it's almost certain, right? It's also have some business background. So in that sense, trade will be certainly a feature. Economic aspect will be the key features of the Thai foreign policies, and it will be more outward looking. But then for trades and outward looking policies to be able to pursue by the Thai government, it also requires peace and stabilities to a large extent. So that's why it's also go in the same ways, and then also the international status of Thailand. Because if you look into the speech of Seta when he become the prime minister, the first speech, he mentions at the end that he was going to make Thailand dignified once again. The word once again matters because of that's already an acknowledgement that in the past we were not dignified enough. So now I want to become dignified once again in the international stage. And for that reasons, I think it's really important that Thailand is going to revitalize its role internationally. It's particularly, with the focus either on trades, with more international trips and to come, and so on and so forth. I just want to tackle on one of the points that Ajahn Chitipat left, in changing the battlefields to marketplace new version of that in the context of Myanmar. Actually, the amount of trades in the border areas between Thailand and Myanmar keep increasing significantly. Just last year, the year before, the amount of trades in the border area was 84 billion Thai baht. Last year, 105 billion. And this year, up until now, is 59 billion. So it's keep rising. And then what are the key export products that got sent to Myanmar? One is mobile phone. Second one is plastic foams. The third and the fourth is oil palm and also petrol. So actually, we said we are importing from Myanmar, but actually we're sending them back to Myanmar. I mean, that was quite something that will be something to watch and look at in years to come. That they're going to be focusing on trade still, but how to maintain these increasing trade amounts in the border areas, it will be something important. And then if you look back into the patterns of what, maybe answering the theme for these panels, is that I also feel the same way that there might not be significant change in the foreign policies apart from the trade emphasis. But this trade emphasis, of course, is a lesson from Palang Prachachon, Thai Rak Thai in the part also. That's going to be more proactive diplomacies on the frameworks, as Ajahn Chitipat mentions, like ACMEC, and also the connectivities. Because of, with the regards to China, the rise of China is undeniable in the regions. And then, of course, Thailand have to deal with that, right? And also the incoming of the US and so on, and other actors in the regions. How Thailand is going to be able to navigate through this field. And as I mentioned earlier on, the scramble for Myanmar in particular will be the key questions for Thailand. And with regard to Myanmar specifically, I see that in the past, Thailand offers to be a coordinator for the national reconciliation process back in 2003. And that was led to the creation of the Bangkok process. I think that Thailand will try to do that again. But to do that again, it requires the Thai government to really understand the complexities of the situation in Myanmar, which to now, I believe that it's not yet clear that Thailand captured that complexities of the situations. And last but not least, one thing that I think it will be clear from the incoming government, and it might be true based on whatever interviews that we have seen so far, is that Thailand will be once again on the radar screen of the world. So Thailand will be there. But how exactly it's going to play the role, either through ASEAN or what, I think that's yet to be seen. And I don't think I want to predict at this stage yet because of, I don't want to be wrong. And for that reasons, I will end it there. Thank you.
So you're employing hedging strategy in order to be deciding. Okay, so thank you very much for all panelists. Now, I don't want to talk too much. So now that we have like around 20 minutes, so I'll open the floor if you want to ask any questions. But to start with, like, let me introduce Sarah, the Deputy Missions of the EU delegation, to speak.
Thank you very much. I would like to really thank Chulalongkorn University and the Dean and all professors and speakers for their very, very important and very, very interesting, enlightening insights. Sorry once again for arriving late due to this misunderstanding about the schedule. But yeah, it was really great, and thank you very much to all friends, diplomats, colleagues for being here today. Of course, you are all experts also of EU relations, although that was not touched very much in the conversation. From the EU side, we are looking forward to working with the new Thai government, and we are looking forward to continuing engaging in our friendly relations with Thailand under the new partnership and cooperation agreement. I would like just to have a question. So, of course, we noticed that foreign policy didn't feature very high in the campaign of all parties, I would say. It was not a main topic in the agenda. It was not a main electoral promise. It was not in public rallies or questioning or in the mainstream media, let's say, apart from some elite media positions. So I would ask you if you can take out the crystal ball and maybe say a little more on Pheu Thai's. Okay, I understand from what you said that you don't expect the foreign policy main line to change a lot, but maybe on some key issues. We have discussed a lot about the great power competition, but on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, for example, on positioning vis-a-vis Myanmar. How much you think Pheu Thai would like if they were, suppose, alone in the government? Would they change if they wouldn't have to compromise in a coalition? Would they change something significantly or not? And since they are in a diverse coalition, how much political capital, coalition power do they want to spend on foreign policy issue vis-a-vis other compromises, other negotiations they might have to do? And and third, the role of the military, apart from the civilian government, on issues such as the Myanmar crisis, maybe the military would have say or not, even if other parties, suppose Move Forward was in the government, but still we would have a strong military. So I would like to ask any of you for insights.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone want to answer those questions? Please.
It's not really direct answers to your question, but I would like to share with you that I think I'm optimistic, and because whatever they do will be better, because it's hard to beat the past. It's hard to beat how we were in the past 9 years or so. So whatever they do, it should be better. But I'll touch upon a little bit about the Russia invasion of Ukraine. I see our new foreign policy will be much more in line with the international community. And if you remember that the Thai abstention to condemn Russia invasion back then, it's very controversial. That even in the ministry itself, I know from my colleagues complain about that a lot, and even I understand that even our United Nations to UN our ambassador didn't advise as such, but the political wing decides so, and myself and some of my colleagues share the view that it has to do with trying to convince President Putin to attend the APEC meeting back then, because it would look good on the government at that time, which it failed miserably. And but that's things that many of my colleagues also shares the view that was the rationale behind why we abstained the vote in the UN, and which is quite shameful. But that's not. I didn't do that. Anyway, I think we will be more in line, like I say, with international laws and UN Charter and what the world think. That's I think will be our new position. And on Burma, as my colleagues mentioned, there are trade along the border as well, and our new government will be focusing very much on the economic cooperation. And but at this end, I think Thailand can also take the same stand as most of our ASEAN colleagues. I mean, it's open secret that Singapore private sector also trade with Myanmar as well, but their stand officially is different and condemning what is going on in Myanmar. So I think that is an approach that our new foreign affairs should take as well. So this is my first reaction. Thank you.
Please.
Just Myanmar issues a little bit. So you asked about the role of the militaries, and I think yes, it will be there. The military gonna still play a role in diplomacies toward Myanmar, and part of the reason is because of this link to the neighbor countries' policies, and I think it's not just specific to Thailand. In other countries also regarding like Cambodia, Malaysia, and also Laos, it's the same. I mean, the policies toward these countries also going to be the militaries that play a role as well. And because of diplomacies towards Myanmar, for me, that I see it's involved beyond the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It also involved the Ministry of Defense. It also involved the Ministry of Health. And then there are also the local diplomacies that conducted through, like the twin village models and some other models in the people-to-people diplomacies also. So in that regards, of course, the military will be one part of it. But if with the new Pheu Thai parties, and then they're going to have more strategy, hopefully, that will allow us, these military engagement will be more strategic as well, rather than being the one that conducted based on the ad hoc tactical approach that they've been doing in the previous year. So to answer shortly, again, the role military will be there, but hopefully it will be more strategic in a way.
Thank you. I agree with Ambassador Ras on Russia with Ukraine. I think it will change, but maybe not a radical change or not significantly. One, I think I agree with Ambassador Ras that the Pheu Thai government will position itself more in line with UN and international community more. Okay, but second, I don't think the Pheu Thai will antagonize Russia, China, and other strategic partners in Russia's war with Ukraine. So in other words, I think the Pheu Thai foreign policy direction might be a kind of interest-based approach rather than value-laden approach. However, for optimistic part, I think Thailand will have a more balanced and more constructive engagement with both Russia and Ukraine. The third point, I think we know that there are closer personal ties between Thaksin and Putin since 2000 onwards, and I think there are some good personal ties between Pheu Thai leaders and the Russian leadership as well. So this is might be factors that we might need to take into consideration. Thank you.
Oh, Jatipuran.
I think for the new government, when they conducting foreign relations with special reference to China, I think they have to bear in mind that now public opinion also play roles in Thailand's foreign policy making. Yeah, it means that if the new government try to strengthening economic relations with China and avoid criticizing China in the so-called in the issue that is the core interest of China, it might create a backlash. It means that the young generation, which has already criticized Pheu Thai Party decision to make a compromise with the conservative forces, would again they would condemn the conduct of foreign policy, by saying that this government is the same as Prayut government trying to appease China rather than defending the international norms. I hope that the new government would bear in mind the increasing role of public opinion in Thai foreign policy making.
That's very important because, if you have used social media, you can see this kind of negative image of China, and not China per se, but great Chinese business or new migrants, in Thailand that a lot of Thai kind of accuse these new migrants as taking the job from the Thai people. So perhaps that would kind of backlash to the government if they cannot maintain the balance and policies to China. Any other questions from the floor?
Chalanthon from Thai PBS World. I would like to raise the questions on with the personal close link from Kun Thaksin to Putin, Hun Sen, and also during his government didn't actually condemn the military in Myanmar. How would that personal closeness of the leaders of the countries that we are talking will affect the new foreign policy of Thailand? Thank you.
Just one more topic I wanted to add to the discussion with regard to the current developments at the BRICS level. How do you think this topic is perceived in Thailand among the new government, and how will they react to that if they do react to that? Thank you.
Thank you. Two questions. Personal link between Putin and Thaksin, or the leaders, and then BRICS.
Well, I have the opportunity once to share a talk via Clubhouse, hosting Clubhouse with Mr. Thaksin, and at the time when the starting of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and we didn't talk before the session. So when the session at that time started, it seems that Mr. Thaksin side a bit with Russia or sympathize President Putin in the invasion of Russia with rhetoric of NATO is trying to have some missiles in Ukraine, and is a direct threat to Russia, so Russia have to act accordingly, something along that line. But I told him that I said we need to adhere to the international laws and principle, and invasion of another country is unacceptable, especially Thailand is medium-sized, we are small countries. The adherence of international laws is very important to our own security, because that's and in the past that is the key tools that we utilize in solving when the problem, the Cambodia problem, when Vietnam invaded Cambodia some 30 years plus ago. And after saying that, Mr. Thaksin, he caught on, and he got immediately that I said that if we as kind of small Thailand needs to adhere to the international law, and he U-turn 100. Yeah, what he said, yes, that is what we have to do. So I don't think he placed the friendship with Mr. Putin over the principle or our national interest. But then again, it's doubtful whether how much influence Mr. Thaksin still have over the day-to-day policies making now. He might have some clout, obviously, but I don't think we can dictate everything anymore. So that's would be my answer to you. Thank you. I'm not sure if that include Myanmar or not, but
issue of BRICS.
I think. Thank you. Thank you for the questions, Cindy. Thank you. I think it might be too early to tell what is the position of the incoming government on this issue. But as observer of this, I think it might be a kind of first about new building block in international affairs with expanded memberships to other 6 countries from next year onwards. I think it might be a kind of more political and economic leverage with other countries around the world. And I think in one way or the other, it might be a kind of new parallel order, international order that we might need to anticipate, in particular kind of the international order that is not part of Western-led or rule-based international order. That's the first one. The second point I think is about the use of local currencies within the BRIC grouping, and also the de-dollarization, which I think is very crucial in a way. So it means that it might be put an opportunity and also some constraint for Thai foreign policy, for Thai foreign economic policy that we might need to engage with the groups in the future. So I think I realize that Bank of Thailand and also other economic departments have aware of these issues for many years now, and I think it might be crucial for Thailand to think and anticipate the options as well about this issue. But I don't think for the short term Thailand will pursue a kind of membership of the BRICS or pursue a kind of de-dollarization in overall economic policy. Thank you.
Yes, if we look at the ASEAN neighbors, the biggest brothers, the Indonesia, just declined to join the BRICS, right? Even though they participated in this conference this time. So perhaps that would make the example for Thai foreign policy if it's gonna be different than Indonesia. But anyway, next questions.
And the now very new alliance among U.S., Japan, and Korea. And about Myanmar, I just want to try to understand because after there was a signing of at the leaders level on the signing on the 5-point consensus, and then there was a deviation. So is there sort of we have read a lot of opinions on that, but we don't really know the reason behind that deviation. Thanks.
Just going to go on the Myanmar issue first. So on the 5-point consensus, the reason for deviation, you mean from the part of Thailand or which countries, right? They need a point of reference there. I think that one of the things when we look into 5-point consensus, we have to understand the dynamics of the public from Myanmar as well, that they are not in favor of that also. Particularly the opposition resistance, including NUG governments and also some other groups, right? So in that dynamic, so to understand that context first, that 5-point consensus for many of the Myanmar publics, I think that it's not really well accepted in that sense. And then now they move on talking about that, and that's why the conversation for Myanmar is more about the federal democracies rather than talking about like Aung San Suu Kyi and the role of her and so on and so forth, and NLD and so on. So that's what's one part. Now specifically on Thailand, why is it the deviations of it? Well, I can be wrong again. The thing is that I think it's crafted by the groups of personal interests. That like there was some certain figures that want to play roles and want to have a show, right? And in the ways that they demonstrate that the capacities to actually be able to deliver the conduct of foreign affairs in the international stage, and which doesn't necessarily serve the interests of Thailand. So that's one thing to mention. And second things to mention that I think it's really important is that like when it comes to the ideas of the creations of the envoy itself, there was also a big discussion on who should be the envoy, not necessarily just in the case of ASEAN envoys, but also in the case of the envoys representing the United Nations also. So in this case, like I think that it's these particular questions that really important to think about because of the envoys that, of course, it should be according to the share. It might not bring consistencies in terms of the conduct of the policies towards Myanmar on behalf of ASEAN. So and then it may not be favored by some of the parties within Myanmar as well. So in that regards, I think that the deviation here, apart if we talk about not about the interests of certain groups or personal interests of certain figures, on the other side, we have to see that like who have a say in this conduct through the envoy would be one of the key point of considerations. And I think this point would be something that needs discussions in within the new government as well, because of this role will be really important. Like in engaging with all parties inside Myanmar, not just the SAC, right? So in that sense, I think that what it really needs to be in considerations beyond 5-point consensus is one, the voices of the people of Myanmar, all groups, ethnic resistant groups, PDF, CDMs, and also of course SAC as well, in the sense that they are still there at the moment, even though they're shrinking area of controls. And second thing, it's really important is how ASEAN would like to bring this continuity forward, with the role of the envoy. Will we change according to the share? Otherwise, like all the different countries can shape the agenda and so on and so forth. And if that affected the unity of ASEAN in delivering policies toward Myanmar eventually.
Thank you. Ajahn,
May I add a bit on this? You have to understand Thai politics that the Myanmar's military and the Thai army is very close. They see themselves as kind of brothers, and more than that, they have this kind of I would not say kind of how they came to power. Because they are close, and the way that they came to power through coup d'etat. So we sense that they have some kind of brotherlyhood or something, that the Thai military, which happens to be the Prime Minister of Thailand, outgoing the Prime Minister of Thailand. So that's why it explains why we are closing up with Myanmar's military junta more than it should be, unnecessary closing up with the Myanmar's junta and supporting them in many ways. And that is one. And two is the business in groups in Thailand, especially in the energy sector, that still have a lot of interest in energy sector in Myanmar, that we believe, or at least some of us think that they still influence our foreign policy as well, to not to deviate from the 5-point consensus and to be more friendly with the government junta in Naypyidaw. So that's two things that made why Thailand is deviate from the 5-point consensus. But I hope that will change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcel, for questions. Very interesting. I think Quad AUKUS, or the new trilateral relationship between U.S., Japan, and South Korea, I think first is part of a new rule of the game led by the U.S. and also like-minded states. It's part of minilateral frameworks informally formed. I think there are enduring questions, persisting questions that need to be asked and answered, not only for the incoming government but also for the bilateral group as well. First, whether these groupings are China focused, whether it is a new form of containment or not. Second, whether it is strengthening ASEAN centrality or ASEAN-led institutionalization, or is bypassing this new rule of the game, and it might be part of a game that the U.S. Leaderships skip coming to to the region, to the ASEAN-led regional summits, but instead play a different game right now through multilateralisms. Another point, I think, whether these multilateral groupings are security oriented, and to what extent these multilateral groupings are intensifying regional geopolitical competition or pacifying the regional peace and stability. I think this is enduring questions that need answer as well, not only from incoming government but also from the many players, many partners around the world. And lastly, I think whether this minilateralization of global politics will precipitate a pressure to taking sides or not. However, I think the Thai government, the incoming government will be interested in IPEF for sure, but I think in terms of cooperation with US and other countries, but also I think the thing is need to be asked is one, is not a trade a trade agreement. It's not a replacement of CPTPP. Second point, whether IPEF is merely a talk shop or it's create a kind of long-term strategic economic engagement that will provide a concrete commitment between Thailand, ASEAN, and also the US in the long term. So it's like a puzzle, more puzzle than answering. Thank you.
Any more questions before we please?
Hi, I'm Tam May. I'm from the Straits Times from Singapore. So this question requires a bit of your reading about the new coalition government. So I think we established that the previous administration was kind of fragmented in their foreign policy approach. So I'm wondering if you think that under Pheu Thai-led coalition, will there be more strategic approach in terms of foreign policy, or do we see the same very fractioned approach, that because there are many parties in the coalition, so a bit of a guesswork, but I'm just wondering what your thoughts on that are.
Thank you for your question. My reading is that foreign policy is something, even though the Thai public have much more interest in Thai foreign policy than before now, but still it's among the parties. It's not something that everybody cares that much. I mean, among other parties. So I don't see other. I mean, so foreign policy will be more or less dictated by the Pheu Thai Party itself.
So it's going to be more less fragmented in that sense that like one parties can dictate the direction of foreign policy in according to economic policies that Pheu Thai Party is just gonna craft for the new government. But anyway, we have been like 15 minutes over time, so that's the end of our seminar. Thank you very much for being here, and your participation is very valuable. And thank you again for the EU mission for the support. Hope we can offer some kind of insight and idea of the possible direction of Thai foreign policy. But before you leave, please help us fill in the evaluations. I think it's in the agenda papers. Just scan and just answer the questions. And hopefully we'll see you next time when we organize the next EU ISIS talk. Thank you very much for today, and have a good afternoon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.